Hello, nampak ah?
Okay, nampak.
Alright. Assalamualaikum dan selamat malam. Nama saya Muhammad Muhaiman bin Mustafa. Nombor metrik B0320101091. Hari ini saya nak present dan discuss lah about web server. Okay, apa yang saya akan discuss hari ini ada 5. 1. What is web server? 2. Example of web server. 3. Architecture of web server. 4. Evaluation version of web server. Dan 5. The most popular web server in 2019 sampai 2020. Okay. What is web server? A computer system that can deliver web content to end user via internet using a web browser. To display website content by storing, processing and delivering web page to user. Support HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol to respond to client request to the www. Okay, basically web server ni dia boleh jadi apa-apa. Contoh kita pakai handphone ataupun laptop kita, asalkan dia connect to internet dan dia connect to wifi dan dia interact with internet lah. Macam kita nak browse Google ke apa ke. Lain lah kalau macam company yang besar-besar macam Google, dia perlukan hardware yang lagi canggih lah untuk manage dia punya web server. Okay, kita pergi ke slide seterusnya. Example of web server. Web server ni sekarang dah ada banyak, tapi yang famous ni ada 3 lah. Yang kita selalu pakai dekat exam tu Apache, the most used web server in the world, found in 1996. It's now maintained by the Apache Foundation. It's freeware and compatible with Linux, Windows, FreeBSD, Mac and several other platform. Yang kedua, IIS. It belongs to Microsoft. IIS stands for Microsoft Internet Information Service. It's come with the Windows Server operating system. It configurable through a graphical interface. Yang ketiga, Tomcat. A free web server specialized in Java Servlet, Java Container. By the way, Tomcat usually work under port 8080 and support PHP, ASP.NET, Perl and Python, etc. Okay, kita ke seterusnya. Dia punya architecture. Selalu yang famous architecture web server ni ada 2. Satu client task, yang kedua server task. Client task ni dia provide a way for user to submit queries. Yang kedua, run application that use the result of queries. Yang ketiga, display result queries. Untuk server task pula, they implement a data manipulation language which can directly access and update the database. Okay, next, architecture type. Untuk web server, ada 3 architecture type. Yang pertama, first tier architecture. Dia macam ni. Yang kedua, second tier architecture. Second tier dia macam ni. Nampak dia ada 1, 2 tingkat lah. Yang ketiga, third tier architecture. Dia ada 3. Database tier, business logic tier dengan last sekali client tier. Okay, kita bergerak ke page seterusnya, evolution of web server. First kali yang wujudnya web server ni pada tahun 1991. CERN ataupun CERN HTTPD, first web server of the world, is developed by Berners-Lee and his developer. It started transcontinental web communication between web browser and web server. Lepas tu 1994 NCSA HTTPD is developed. It could serve dynamically generate content by implementing the post HTTP method and the CGI to communicate with external programs. Pada tahun 1995, the first version of IIS was released by Microsoft. Lepas tu 1996 sampai 1999, Netscape Enterprise Server and Microsoft IIS emerged among the leading commercial options. Apache HTTP Server held the lead as the preferred server till 2015. Lepas tahun 2000, many other open source program like Lightspeed had excellent quality and very high performance available with commercial support. Maksudnya sebelum 1996 ni semua dia macam berbayar lah. Sebab tu lah tak banyak web server. Lepas tu after 2002 ni dah banyak open source yang free yang bagus dah banyak. Contohnya Lightspeed ke Apache tu ke. Okay, kita ke slide yang terakhir. The most popular web server in 2019 until 2020 with their comparison and why it become popular. Okay, yang saya bagi tahu tadi Apache kan, Apache yang famous. Kenapa Apache famous? Why Apache become popular? First kali, highly flexible and customizable. Lepas tu, functionalities can be easily turned on and off. Regular update and security patch. Open source offer user the most flexible environment to run a server. Seperti yang kita gunalah Apache ni, dia senang dekat XAMPP tu kan, dia senang on off. Lepas tu dia free. Lepas tu kalau update semua bagus-bagus. Itu saja daripada saya. Sekian, terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum. Saya dari grup 2 akan membentangkan web browser. What is web browser? A web browser is a software application for retrieving, presenting and traversing information resources on the World Wide Web. An information resource is identified by a uniform resource identifier and may be a web page, image, video or other piece of content. Example of web browser. First is Google, second Opera, third Microsoft Edge, fourth Mozilla Firefox, 5 Apple Safari. Architecture of web browser. Um, for mouse, keyboard, to controller, and go to client or HTML, XML, and PDF. Client can connect to network. For details, controller obtains the coordinates of the user cursor from windowing system and compares them with the coordinates of the objects displayed in the page. Client: if a link has been selected, the controller extracts the scheme from the URL. This determines which client (HTTP, HTTPS, FTP) will be used to fetch the document. For display, the browser will fetch the document and depending on the document type, such as HTML, XML, and PDF, cause the appropriate interpreter to render and display the document. Next is networking. The networking component handles all aspects of internet communication and security. The network component may implement a cache of retrieved documents in order to reduce network traffic. Evolution version of web browser. It started with Mosaic. The World Wide Web era and the development of web browser began with the release of Mosaic in 1993. NetSpace's Navigator appeared shortly after Mosaic. After Microsoft released Internet Explorer in 1995, the battle between NetSpace and Microsoft officially began. Because Internet Explorer was included with Microsoft's well-known as Windows operating system, the company enjoyed a significant advantage. Over 90% of the market for web browser in 2002 belonged to Microsoft Internet Explorer. To create an open source web browser that would become Firefox, NetSpace established the Mozilla Foundation in the 1990s. With their web browser Safari, Apple entered the fray in 2003. Despite being widely used on Apple devices, Safari never gained popularity among PC users. Google jumped into the web browser market in 2008 with Chrome. By 2012, Chrome had absorbed market share from the competitors and was the dominant web browser in the market. When web browsers were in their infancy, almost all connections to the World Wide Web were through dial-up modems. Many of the technologies we take for granted today were just not possible with the slow transfer speeds of the dial-up modems day. Things like game playing, streaming services, YouTube videos, and other data-intensive activities were not available. I can remember connecting with a 300 baud modem and waiting hours for a file to download. Today, that same size file downloads in the blink of an eye. As in connection and data transfer speeds increase, web browser technology will continue to keep pace and bring us more capabilities than we ever dream of. Next is evolution version of web browser. We can see from next step to Mosaic, to NetSpace, to Internet Explorer, to Opera, to Mozilla, to Safari, to Firefox 1.0, to IE7, and last to Google Chrome. The time is from 1991 to 2008. In 1990, World Wide Web, renamed to Nexus Next Step to avoid confusion with the www system, was the first graphical web browser and HTML editor. It was developed by Tim Berners-Lee, inventor of the web. Roughly 4 million users of the www. 1993, Mosaic, recognized for making the internet more well-known to public to online. Many of the graphical user interface features of Mosaic, like top-oriented action bars that offer basic browsing functionalities, are still used by contemporary browsers like IE and Firefox. Had a user base of 10 million users worldwide at his time. Next, 1994, Netscape, the lead software engineer of Mosaic, Andreessen strikes out on his own, founding Netscape and launching Netscape Navigator, the first commercial web browser, most used web browser of its time. Due to the rise of alternative web browser, its usage had almost completely disappeared by 2008. Next, in 1995, Internet Explorer is the first browser industry war was basically started when Microsoft released its own browser called Internet Explorer. Most widely used web browser since 1999, IE8 released in March of 2009. In 1996, Opera, the biggest Norwegian telecoms provider, Telenor, makes Opera available to the general population. 2 years later, it began adapting Opera to mobile device platform in an effort to dominate the market for internet-enabled mobile device. Never become a popular choice for desktop web browser. And in 1998, Mozilla Firefox aims to create the communicator successor. It becomes evident that a project based on the existing source code was challenging attention turns to building from scratch. Before this, Firefox name is Phoenix. In 2002, IE, because it is integrated with the Windows operating system, Microsoft Internet Explorer surpasses a 95% share. In 2003, for Apple Safari, it introduced the reliable layout engine WebKit, which is used in many mobile devices such as Google and Nokia phones. This only reserved for Apple product only. In 2004, Firefox hits the scenes with a big early adopter following due to their beta release. Then, 2006, Internet Explorer 7, Microsoft released version 7 of their browser 5 years after IE6, incorporating several features from its open source variant, such as tab browsing and anti-phishing security. In 2008, Google Chrome launched its own web browser, entering into the web browser battles in the market share. The most popular web browser in 2019 to 2020 and the comparison to other web browser. Google Chrome is the most popular web browser. As November 2020, Google Chrome holds a whopping 70.33% of the desktop browser market share worldwide. It is because it can open heavy pages very quickly compared to the others, more secure as it always carries security patches and bug fixes, and more compatible. Comparison of web browser. We have Chrome, Safari, and Firefox. All is Cloud Sync, Download Manager, and also private browsing. Only Firefox, only Safari is no tabs on the side. Only Safari no custom extension and no full screen mode. For that's all from me. Thank you.
Next, Ainul kan? Yeah. Ya, ya, dipersilakan. Oh, nampak, nampak. Mic masih mute.
Ya Allah, tak unmute ke? Okay, sorry. So tadi korang tak dengar lah kan? Astaghfirullahaladzim, sorry.
Tak apa,
Okay,
tak apa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, good night. Okay, so today I know akan present tentang Git versus GitHub. So this is all the topic outline. First is introduction to Git and GitHub, and then advantages and disadvantages Git and GitHub, and how to install Git and GitHub. Okay, so first of all, Git was created by Linus Torvalds, who is the creators of Linux in 2005. The main purpose of Git is to manage source code in software development or a file that change over time. Git help in tracking code by storing them in version on its own local repository called GitHub. So Git is a code that can be put into the cloud on GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. The three local area of Git are the working directory, staging area, and Git repository. The object types include blobs, trees, commits, tags, blobs, and tree represent files and directory, and tags are metadata. The three main part of Git project. First is Git directory. Git directory function, it store the object database where cloning take place in the repository to another remote computer. Second one is working tree. Working tree, the function is file are pulled out from the database and placed on the disk for modification. Third is staging area. This act as index part that direct to go to the next commit. So as you guys can see, the behind picture, this men are the one who created the Git. Okay, next is we're gonna go to introduction of GitHub. So GitHub is a collaboration platform built on top of a distributed version control system called Git. One does not have to worry about losing data on his hard drive or managing a project across multiple computers. One can see from everywhere. You can track issue, build tests, the thing, and finally develop a project. Okay. Why use GitHub for a project? So first of all, GitHub, it has version control that allow experiment and mistake without messing up in final product. Secondly, keep your code in one place. Thirdly, great collaboration platform. For Git, GoHub, github.com, GitHub desktop. Okay, macam banyak lah korang boleh cari tentang GitHub ni. Okay, lepas tu contoh if you guys want to know how to use GitHub, you guys boleh pergi dekat Hello World or GitHub Guide. Okay, next is advantages and disadvantages Git versus GitHub. So Git local repository, GitHub is central. So for Git, it is a software, but for GitHub, it is a service. Kalau Git, it is installed and maintained in the local system. For GitHub, designed as Git repository hosting service, GitHub solely a cloud-based service. For Git, it is a branching model set Git apart. For GitHub, you can share your code with others, giving them the power to make revision or edit. Okay. So next, okay. Git, it is a command line tool that require an interface to interact with the world. GitHub, it provides graphical interface and a development platform created for million developer. Next is for Git, it can work without GitHub as other web-based Git repository are also available. For GitHub, it is well known as Git server. However, there are other options like Bitbucket or GitLab. Okay, sorry ni bukan advantages, ni adalah differences between Git versus GitHub. So next we are going through advantages of Git. So what is the advantage of Git? First, Git, it is good distributed model as each developer get a local repository with a whole full history of commit, which make Git fast compared to other VC. And also Git is a free and open source, can easily download the source code and perform change to it. Git can handle larger project efficiently. Git is data redundancy and replication. Add-on can be written in many language. Git have good and faster network performance and superior disk utilization, and they think about its data like a sequence of snapshot. So there are 4 disadvantages of Git. One is Git require technical excellence and it's slower on Windows. Okay. Second is Git have poor GUI and usability. 3, Git doesn't support checking out subtree. 4, Git need multiple branches to support parallel development used by developer. So next is we're going to know about advantages of GitHub. So advantages of GitHub, first is Markdown. So what is the function of Markdown? Markdown allows you to use a simpler text editor to write formatted document. And then secondly, GIS and GitHub pages. GIS is to let you convert one or several files into a working Git repository. Collaboration, GitHub is the ultimate tool for collaborative coding. GitHub contains powerful versioning software so that it can be handle branching and merging easily. Also, GitHub, the advantages is backup. Using an online repository should never be considered infallible, but it provides a nice and simple way to have code and version history available online, regardless of what happened to your local machine. So disadvantages of GitHub, there is 3. So first one is it is difficult to use for beginner. Secondly, the security. GitHub does offer private repository on both free and paid tiers, but even private repository have their issue. Okay, so the last one is pricing. For GitHub, it have it having own internal server are often better off using their own internal Git for cost reason. Okay, next is we're gonna learn on how to install Git. This is how to install Git inside your desktop. So there is a video. This video I will share the link in WhatsApp group. Okay, how to install GitHub. Okay, there's some details here. Firstly, you need to open a browser and then visit desktop.github.com. Thirdly, click download for Windows 64-bit. And then the fourth one, when prompted, click run. And also the last one is you need to allow the installation to download and install. Once the installation is complete, GitHub desktop will launch in your desktop. So how to configure GitHub? First is you need to drag and drop repository from within the file manager to automatically edit them to your Git repository. Clone a repository from your GitHub account to your local drive. And then next one is with a repository clone to your local drive, you can start working on it locally and then compare, merge, rebase, and more. Next is when work is done, push it back to GitHub by clicking repository or push. Also, if you're working with team, create a new pull request by clicking repository or pull. Okay, and then next is after the installation, you must set your Git username with the command run from git bash. This is the example, git configure -- global use.name and then your username, where username is your Git username. And then next, you need to set your email address, which will be associated with your Git account. Again, from git bash with the command. So this is the details that you can use. Okay, this email address will associate it with your Git account. Once you run these 2 commands, make sure to close GitHub desktop and reopen. You can now go to repository, open in command prompt, and you should see the window terminal open to the proper folder where you can interact with that repository from the command line. Okay, that is a video also on how to configure GitHub. That is 2 link that I'm going to share into WhatsApp group. So thank you very much for tonight. Sorry kalau tadi ada mistaken. Jelas tak korang?
Jelas.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Dengar. Sabar.
Okay. Next siapa? Okay dah.
Oh, nampak tak?
Nampak.
Nampak.
Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening everyone. My name is Muhammad Firdaus from group 5. I'm gonna talk a bit about XAMPP versus WAMP. So in definition, XAMPP is free, easy to install Apache distribution containing MariaDB, PHP and Perl. The XAMPP open source package has been set up to be incredibly easy to install and to use. So in definition for WAMP server package is a window web development environment. It allows you to create web application with Apache 2, PHP and a MySQL database. Alongside PHP admin allows you to easily manage your database. So we're gonna go through for the advantages and disadvantages. For them, it's a simple to install and configure. The next point is it is multiple platform, so it runs on both Linux and Windows. PHP, MyAdmin, OpenSSL, MediaWiki, WordPress, Joomla, and other applications are included. It is comprehensive and standard. The entire web server and database stack is started and stopped with a single command. For the disadvantages of XAMPP, configuration and setting are more difficult compared to the WAMP. For the next one, for the WAMP, advantages of WAMP, the WAMP server installation and configuration are straightforward. It is a cross-platform like XAMPP and is available for both Windows and Linux. WAMP simplifies PHP coding and database creation on the Windows platform. It works on both 32 bits and 64-bit system. Similar to XAMPP, you can start and stop the web server and database with a single command. But however, the disadvantages of WAMP is installing WAMP is not easy to install when compared to XAMPP. So this is the difference between them. In terms of stand for, XAMPP stand for cross-platform, Apache, MySQL, PHP, and Perl. WAMP stand for Windows, Apache, MySQL, and PHP platform. So platform for XAMPP is Windows, macOS, and Linux. Meanwhile, for the WAMP, Windows only, not compatible to all versions. Database management system. For them, we use MariaDB and MySQL. Same with WAMP, MariaDB and MySQL. For context programming or scripting languages, them use Perl and PHP. Meanwhile, WAMP using PHP only. The resources are for the XAMPP more powerful and resource consuming. For WAMP, much more lightweight. For SSL features, XAMPP have the SSL features. Meanwhile, WAMP do not have it. Processing power for XAMPP only 64 bits. Meanwhile, WAMP have a 64 bits and 32 bits. So the packages for the XAMPP and WAMP, as we can see here, this is the screenshot for the XAMPP. Screenshot S stand for the XAMPP packages that have been installed. So for the B, this is the WAMP packages that have been installed in that particular device. So for the next, XAMPP installation should be the same from the Google. Explaining this installation takes a long time and quite renyah. Same goes to WAM. You can find it in Google. For the configuration, XAMPP server package configuration. This is the interface for the XAMPP. We have a control panel interface only. And then the right column here, we can see a few buttons. Config buttons allow user to configure the XAMPP as well as the individual component. Connect start button shows all running processes on the local computer. For the button shell opens a Unix shell. Button Explorer opens the XAMPP folder in the Windows Explorer. For the services shows all services currently running in the background. The button help offers links to user forum, and the last but not least, quit closes the XAMPP control panel. This is the control panel XAMPP for XAMPP. This is to setting up XAMPP might have facing some difficulties. For example, a Tomcat port is most likely blocked. This preventing the web server from starting. So there's three possible solution for this problem. Change the config port. The second one, change the XAMPP module port setting. The last but not least, and the config program. So this is module administration. To access web server web addresses, click on the admin icon on your Apache server. The control panel will now launch the in default browser, taking user to dashboard to the XAMPP localhost. To access phpMyAdmin, click on the admin button in the database module. User may manage the database of the web project that are being tested on the XAMPP server here. And then for the WAM configuration, how to configure Apache. First, let the connection be for everyone, not just for local. Edit the file as stated here, as the directory that stated here. And this for configuration file, user need to find the section directory, install dir, replace the value or require local with the require all granted as shown in the images, then save and close the file. So you need to edit the file C in this directory, replace the parameters and value of the directory section with belows. You can see there's a 4 point there, and then save and close the file. To check the operation of the server HTML file in the root of the site. To do this, open Notepad and fill it with HTML underscore code. Then save the file along the path with as the stated here there. Now from other computer, open the file. This can be done by domain name if purchased or configured, or by IP address as and the example stated there. So for configuration on phpMyAdmin in the WAM server, on the server main page at the very bottom of the left, in the tool section, click on phpMyAdmin. The page will open the link. The web application will request a username and password by default. The program is root. The password should be left blank. User should also select to use DBMS and click on the forward button. That's all from me. Thank you. Any question?
No,
Okay.
No, everything is
so
good.
far so good.
Okay. Next presenter.
Okay.
content and web. Hello, ada nampak ke? Ada? Back-end development.
Ada.
Nampak.
Okay.
Nampak.
Okay, selamat malam, selamat sejahtera. Saya Muhammad Syafiq nak ingin present back-end development. What is back-end development? Back-end development build how the website works, manage the database, user security, and performance of the site. Example of back-end development, PHP and Java. Apa tu? Kasih terang jelas, back-end ni dia lebih kepada buat kerja kat belakang lah. Apa kalau front end tu, kita nampak front end tu sebenarnya ada back end support kat belakang. Itulah. Okay. What is back end framework? Back end framework are server section frameworks created to make tasks. For example, hassle-free for developer, focus more on scripting language. Dan example dia punya framework ialah JavaScript, Laravel dan Node.js. Node JavaScript. Terusnya, how back-end development works. Macam contoh yang ni, Khairul dia nak pergi ke satu URL tu. So, daripada URL dalam komputer dia akan request ke server. Dan server tu akan jalankan search ke database dia orang. So, database tu akan proses dan dia dah jumpa, dia akan send ke server balik dan bagi ke komputer si Khairul ni. So, apa yang Khairul akan nampak ialah front end punya interface, GUI tu semualah, HTML, CSS tu. So kita punya back end semua ada kat bahagian server dengan database ni. Back end developers duties and responsibilities ialah main focus on coding and debugging, collaborate with front end developer, build high quality reusable code that can be used in the future, develop functional and sustainable web application with clean nodes, learn about new techniques, stay up to date with current best practice, and troubleshoot and debug application. Seterusnya ialah advantage using back-end framework. Salah satu example one, run in different environment. More companies are more emerging all hosting service. Programmers also frequently distribute workload server-side over multiple machines. Kedua, make information sharing faster. Often retrieve data from the archive and transfer the detail to the web interface. Enable the sharing of knowledge. The third, require code logic. Programmers keep a website's user interface and application logic separate to simplify. And finally, impact the website user's experience. Consistency can influence the user interface. Next, disadvantage, no personalized automated operation. No specialized service, making it impossible to solve problem. Second, limited count operation. Limited count operation that vary each time and do not exceed 160. Next, less control. Consumer have fewer network powers that prohibits them from executing those activities as they wish. And finally, security issues. Should option for a custom backend cloud dedicated to you alone, and need to formulate protection strategies that can vary according to business model. Next, this is the example of most popular backend framework. Django, Laravel, Rails, Express, JavaScript, Cake PHP, Flask, ASP.NET, Spring Boot, Koa, and Phoenix framework. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Next up.
Ini kacau lah ni. Nampak skrin tak?
Nampak.
Okay, good evening. My name is Nur Faiza binti Syafa Anwar, and now I will present about full stack development. So what is full stack developer? It is someone who handles both, including the back end and the front end of development. Macam yang dah present tadi, back end tu yang macam ada Python, tetapi SQL semua, and front end tu macam HTML, CMS, JavaScript. So full stack ni basically dia dua-dua sekali. Dia handle. What is full stack framework? The collection of software that provide a complete end-to-end solution for web development. It means that software framework that provides basic structure for web application. It can also be used to develop any type of application. Sorry. Ini macam ada banyak kan full stack framework yang available, tapi the main feature dia adalah macam a web server, application server, database. Most full stack framework too also include various tools for developing, testing, and deploying web applications. So what full stack developer must do? They must be up to date with the latest technologies and tools, because ada banyak new software, so they have to keep up to date, and they have to write clean code for the front end and the back end developers. They have to help in choosing the right technologies for project development and test the system both in back end and front end. Sorry, typo. Sebab ada banyak software kan, setengah tu macam terlalu kompleks. Dia nak simple je, macam tak sesuai lah guna yang kompleks tu. And they also have to consider security, maintenance, scalability, and sebagainya while developing. So advantages and disadvantages of full stack framework. Advantages, they help to improve efficiency of development process. And they also provide high level flexibility. They provide they improve efficiency sebab full stack ni dia boleh work on a web app entirely in that programming language, making it easier for anyone in the team to understand. And provide ada higher level of flexibility sebab diorang ni ada banyak resources yang readily available. For disadvantages, more time is needed and they slow down the process. It's about sorry. It's about actually nak cari full stack developer tu
Kan senang lah walaupun selalunya ada je. Tapi dia orang setengah tu dia macam dia akan lebih kepada front end, setengah tu dia lebih kepada back end. Nak cari yang betul-betul true full stack developer tu agak susah. Kadang-kadang macam proses dia agak slow lah sebab tak dapat nak betul-betul tengokkan apa yang betul. So that is all from me. Thank you. Ada soalan tak?
Tak ada. Okey.
Setakat ni tak ada,
Tak ada.
faham.
Setakat ni okey dan faham. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Faham.
Okey. Jadi kita habis kat sini lah kan?
Yeah,
Boleh.
betul.
Boleh?
Makan.
Semua
Alright.
bagus.
Semua bagus.
Baik.
Okay, stop recording. Mana this meeting record transcript?